Fine. Now we'll see the Spring MVC. Spring MVC. Right. Spring MVC module. Fine. Why to go for this Spring MVC? First of all, what is the MVC? What is the MVC? Now try to understanding here. MVC means model view controller, right? Model means all the business components. All the business components. See now, here POSO class is comes under business component. The next business object is comes under model. The next DAO class is comes under model. All are comes under model components, right? The next view means presentation logic. Okay, presentation logic. That means here success.jsp is comes under view part. The next register.html is comes under view page. The next failure.xhtml is comes under view pages. All are comes under view pages. Controller means the total flow is maintained by this controller only. Okay, the total flow means every request and response is take care about the controller, and it is going to be maintained by the total flow of an application. Okay, and it is going to be maintained by the total flow of an application. That is nothing but a controller. See now here, first of all, why we are entering into this MVC concept? Now try to understanding here. Before the MVC, the industry peoples was implemented by the projects like this. This is the TCS company. TCS company was implemented by the one project, that is SBI project. This project was implemented by using Servlet technology. And they are implemented by this project, right? So now here, this project was performed by the different operations like a withdraw. The next, check the balance. The next, transfer balance. The next, view all deposits like this. This application was performed by the different operations. Whenever we are performing any operation, now immediately the database is going to be affected. This is Oracle database, assume that. Now the TCS company having some network. Now that company was developed by that SBI project, and they are moved into the production. Now that project is running right now in production. These many people are working on that project. So last 10 years onwards, these guys are working on that project, right? Now we can take one more company. This is HCL company. HCL company was developed by the one project, that is SBH application. This application was implemented by using JSP technology. This application also was performed by the different operations like a withdraw, the next check the balance, the next transfer the balance, the next view all deposits. Almost all the banking applications same operations or not? Yes, same operations. See now here, this is also having one database. Whatever operations we are performing, all the operations are affected on database. Now HCL also having some network. HCL also having some network. These guys are working on last 10 years onwards on JSP technology. Fine. Like this, these guys are working on Servlet technology and these guys are working on JSP technology. Okay, they are used by their own technology and they are starting the projects and they are going to be deployed that projects into production. Now that projects are going to be running. So after 10 years, in TCS company, 2 people are resigning and they are going to be joining to the another company. Assume that. Now in this place exact 2 members are required or not? TCS company is required for 2 members. Now what the TCS company will do? Now the TCS company is going to be hiring to the some jobs. Okay, hiring to the some jobs. Now in that job, now different people are going to be attending to the interview. Technical peoples, non-technical peoples, different guys is going to be attending to that interview. Okay, now at the time more people are came to the interview. Now the conducting the interview is so much difficult. At the time what the TCS company will do? Now the TCS company is going to be putting the written test first, filtering purpose. So now after putting the written test, now different peoples are going to be eliminated. Now only for this HCL guy is going to be selected. HCL guy is going to be selected. Now this HCL guy is going to be joined to the next month. Now after that this HCL guy is going to be joined to this company. After joining to this guy here, now immediately project manager and team leader is coming. They are going to be assigning to some task. Hello boss, right now this project is running in production. Any issues are coming, we have to resolving that issues. Like that, project manager and team lead is going to be assigning to the task. After assigning to the task, now this guy is saying, yes, I am going to handling that task. But actually, he don't know what is the Servlet technology, he knows the JSP technology only. At that time, he is unable to resolving all the issues. Why? Because he don't know exactly Servlet. But so many issues are coming, but he is unable to resolving all the issues. And finally, every month is completed and he got the salary, but he is unable to resolving all the issues. Finally, who is going to be losing here? Company is going to be losing. Why? Because company is going to paying the every month amount. That is the reason company is going to be losing. In order to overcome this problem, now the company people was followed by the one approach. Hello boss. Okay, so now whatever your knowledge, don't follow like that. These guys also, whatever you have a knowledge, don't follow like that. Whatever we are saying, we have to follow that approach and we can implementing the projects. Why? Because these guys are followed by their own approach and they are implemented. And if these guys are resigning to this company, then what about that project? Now the final company is going to be lost or not? So that is the reason company is saying, don't follow your own approach, your own architecture. We will provide the architecture and everything, we have to follow that architecture. And we can developing an application. So now this company also is going to be saying to these guys, hello boss, we will providing the one architecture, we have to follow that architecture and we can start the project implementation. Now what is that architecture here? They are going to be introduced into the MVC, Model View Controller. So now these companies are going to be introduced into the Model View Controller. They are followed by the one standard, every company. Okay, now we have to follow the MVC and we can developing an application. Whenever we are following the MVC and if we are developing an application, now these guys are followed by the MVC, these guys are also followed by the MVC. Now whenever these guys are resigning, now one more guy is going to be joined and he is going to be writing the code and he is going to be debugging and finally he is going to move into the production. Why? Because already he is involved to the MVC, he knows the MVC. He is also working on that MVC only. That is the reason everybody is going to follow by the MVC and they are going to be starting the project implementation. In olden days, companies are going to be depending on developers. But nowadays, developer is going to be depending on company. So if the company is depending on developer, now the company is going to be lost if the developer is going to be resigning to that company. That is the reason nowadays company never be followed by the developer. Now developer is always depending on company only. Company only. So like that, immediately they are going to be introduced into the one architecture, that is MVC architecture. Using that MVC architecture and we can developing an applications. At that time we are overcome to all these problems. So now in MVC they are going to be immediately informed. A model, we have to use POSO, business object and DAOs. If we want to developing the model components, we can use what? EasyAB technology or Spring framework. They are fixed. They are divided. So now, if we want to developing the view part, we can use what? If we want to developing the view part, so we can use JSP, we can use HTML, we can use CSS. So now we can use, here XHTML, web technologies. If you want to developing the controllers, we can use what? Servlets. We can use servlets. Like this, they are divided. The company is going to be divided by all the technologies. In which area we can use which technology. They are divided. After that, they are going to be assigning to the task to the developers. Hello boss, we have to work on that model area. Hello boss, we have to work on that presentation view layer. Somebody is going to be working on that controller part. So whenever we are designing in this model part, there is no problem for the company. Immediately the company is going to be hiring to the jobs. Whoever knows the perfectly Spring framework, please come to the interview, and they are going to be conducting the interview, and finally they are going to select it, and in this area they are going to be assigning to the task. At that time developer he knows anyway, he knows the Spring model part he know, and happily he is going to be involved and happily he is going to be working. At that time there is no problem for the company. But here he don't know servlet technology properly, then company is going to be assigning to the task for that guy. Then how this guy is going to be working? This guy is going to be facing the problem. That is the reason they are introduced into the MVC and they are going to be developed by the projects. They are developed by the projects. Now, as part of Spring framework, they are given to the only one controller, that is dispatcher servlet. They are given to the only one controller, that is dispatcher servlet. Now, the first we have to configuring that dispatcher servlet inside the web.xml file. That is the front controller. That is the front controller. That front controller is going to be maintained by the total flow of an application. So now that front controller is available to in which location? In this location, web.spring-framework.servlet.dispatcher servlet. This is the front controller. Throughout the Spring framework, only one controller is there, that is dispatcher servlet. That is a dispatcher servlet. Using that dispatcher servlet, we can maintain the total flow of an application. This servlet we have to configure in where? Inside the web.xml file. You know the web application architecture, right? So now root folder, so for example Spring MVC app. So now this is the root folder, under that SRC, under that WebINF, then next under that classes, then next lib. This is the web application architecture, right? So now here we can place all the presentation pages, right? HTML, JSP, you know. Here we can place all the jar files. Here classes, here web.xml, Spring configuration file, etc. Right? All the XML files. Here we can place all the Java files. Now this dispatcher servlet we have to configure inside the web.xml file. Okay, how to configure we will see here. This is web.xml. First of all we have to take web app, under that servlet, the next servlet hyphen name. Now I am going to take here what? Servlet name, right? Close the servlet name. The next servlet class, servlet hyphen class. Here we can take dispatcher servlet, right? Dispatcher servlet. Complete name we can take. Okay, fully qualified class name we can take here. Close the servlet class. After that, close the servlet, right? Close the servlet. Then next, servlet mapping. Servlet mapping. The next, servlet name. Now disp. Close the servlet name. The next, URL pattern. The next here star dot do. Close the URL pattern. The next, close the servlet mapping. The next, close the web app. Close the web app. Right? This is the way to configuring. This is what type of URL pattern? This is extension match. This is what? Extension match. So now here http :/ localhost :2014, the next project name, the next slash durga.do. Before that do, your choice, any number of characters we can take, right? So now Durga is replaced by this is star. This is what type of URL pattern? Extension match. Extension match. Now one more URL pattern is there. that is exact match. URL patron slash Durga. Close the URL patron. Close the URL patron. Now http://localhost:2014 project name URL patron. This is what? Exact match. Exact match. The next one more URL pattern is there, directory match. URL pattern a/b/star. Close the URL pattern. Now here http://localhost:2014 project name a/b/Durga. Directory match at the end must and should we have to take what? Star. This is what? Directory match. Now we can use any one of the URL pattern and we can make a request to that application, right? So these many URL patterns are there. Okay, fine. Now as part of Spring Framework, we are going to developing the some of the business components. After developing the business components, now we can configuring all the business components inside the Spring configuration file. After configuring inside the Spring configuration file, now in standalone applications we are loading the manually that configuration file by using resource res is equal to new class path resource, like that. This is the web application. Who is responsible to load that configuration file? Dispatcher servlet is responsible to load that configuration file. Dispatcher servlet is one of the front controller. That controller is responsible to load the configuration file. Whatever configuration file we are developing, that configuration file was going to be loaded by the dispatcher servlet. Right? So how it is going to be loaded, we will see here. Now the dispatcher servlet is the boss for the entire application. That is one of the front controller. Now the dispatcher servlet is responsible to load our configuration file. How it is going to be loaded our configuration file? So now our configuration file we can save like this: servlet.xml, where we can place this XML file under web.inf. We can save our configuration file name like this. After that, as it is the same name we can take. Here, disp. While configuring the servlet name, we have to take the same name. Here disp na, Durga na, your choice. Any name we can take, not a issue, right? Any name we can take, not a issue, but servlet.xml is mandatory extension, right? So now whenever we are taking the here Durga, then we have to take servlet name is what? Durga. Based on that name, dispatcher servlet is going to be loaded by this configuration file, right? Configuration file. This is approach number 1 to load the configuration file. Now approach number 2. Approach number 2. Maybe our configuration file name is there like this, application context.xml. Application context.xml. This is what? Default configuration file name. If the default configuration file name is there, we can load this configuration file by configuring the one listener class. What is that listener class here? Listener, under that listener class are automatically activated, right? So now what is that listener class here? org.springframework dot framework dot web dot context dot context loader listener. Context loader listener. Then close the listener class. Close the listener class. Then close the listener. Close the listener. We have to configuring this class. We have to configuring this class in where? Inside the web.xml file. When we can take this listener class, whenever our configuration file name is there, application context.xml. What it contains? It contains the beans, Spring configuration file, right? Then third approach. Maybe our configuration file name is there like this, spconfig.xml. spconfig.xml. In this case, what we have to do? How to load that configuration file? Now we can take here init param. Init param. Under that param name, context config location, config location. Close the param name. This is the fixed name. Fixed name. This is the fixed name. The next param value. Param value. Now here slash webinf slash spconfig dot xml. Close the param value. The next close the init param. Close the init param. Now we can configure this. You can configure this init param where? Inside the servlet tag. This is the first approach, second approach, third approach. Right? Third approach. We can configure like that. Right? We can configure like that. So now here, whenever we are taking the context param here, now wherever you want we can configure. Now automatically it is going to be loaded. If you are taken here init param, must and should we have to take where? Inside the servlet tag only. This is the way to load the configuration file. This is the way to configure in our application. Whenever we are configuring like this, now the dispatch servlet is take care about to load the configuration files. Your responsibility is we have to follow the any one of the approach. Finally, dispatcher servlet is responsible to load this configuration files. Dispatcher servlet is responsible to hand over into this configuration file to container. Now the container is responsible to creating all the objects, and the container is responsible to gives to all the objects to in our application, right? If it is normal standalone applications, you will responsible to load the configuration file, and you will responsible to hand overing that configuration file to container. But in MVC, Spring with web applications, now framework automatically that dispatcher servlet is going to be take care about to load the configuration files. But we have to okay, develop the configuration file names like this in our application, right? Now 3 URL patterns are there, 3 ways we can load the configuration files. Fine. Now we will see the Spring request flow. Okay, Spring request flow we will see. Now that is the main for the entire Spring. Based on that request flow, the applications are going to be working.